Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into the quiet side of mystery, the kind that doesn't shout, but whispers across centuries. These are the stories that refuse to sleep, the 8 great mysteries that still haunt historians today. From lost cities buried beneath waves, to ancient machines that predicted the stars. From scripts no one can read to sounds no one can explain. Tonight, we'll drift through time, exploring the unanswered questions that shaped our world. Each mystery you're about to hear isn't just about the past, it's a mirror, a reminder that even in an age of reason, there are still things beyond reason. Places that hide beneath the sea. Lights that move without wind. Words that speak without sound. So before you get comfortable, take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe. But only if these deep sleep history stories help you find peace, sleep better, or simply reflect on our shared journey through time. Now, close your eyes, let the night slow down, and listen, because even silence has a history. Tonight, let your mind drift across the dark waters of time. The world outside fades to a whisper, and we begin our journey toward places the earth has tried to forget. Cities swallowed by oceans, buried under mountains, and erased by sandstorms, each one a silent witness to humanity's rise and fall. Close your eyes. Feel the faint hum of ancient tides calling from beneath your heartbeat. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies the most famous legend of them all, Atlantis. Plato wrote of it not as a dream, but as a memory, a mighty island empire, rich beyond imagination, where palaces gleamed with orichalcum and temples rose to honor Poseidon himself. Its people mastered knowledge, art, and power until pride turned their paradise into ruin. One night, the sea rose and swallowed Atlantis whole. For centuries, we've searched for its bones beneath the waves. Some say it lies beneath the volcanic ash of Santorini, its circular cliffs mirroring Plato's description. Others point south to the frozen deserts of Antarctica, where satellite images hint at buried geometric shapes. And then there's the Sahara, once lush and green, where strange rings of rock known as the Eye of Africa stretch for miles, eerily similar to Atlantis's concentric design. Could it be that the sands of Mauritania guard the ghost of a forgotten empire? Scientists argue. Some see myth, others see memory wrapped in metaphor. Yet the ocean still whispers as if something waits below. In 2018, sonar scans off the coast of Spain revealed structures aligned too perfectly to be chance. Walls, roads, even possible pillars. Coincidence? Or remnants of the lost capital that once ruled the world? Atlantis, whether truth or parable, speaks to a deeper human longing, to remember what was lost and to understand why it vanished. Perhaps the story is not about a place, but a warning. Civilizations rise when they listen to the earth,
and they fall when they try to conquer it. As the tides cradle your thoughts tonight, imagine the light of Atlantis flickering beneath the waves, its towers shimmering one last time before silence claimed them. Far from the sea, where the air hangs heavy with dust and sunlight, a mound rises quietly in the Anatolian plains of Turkey. For thousands of years, it was just a hill, ordinary, unremarkable. But beneath it slept the oldest temple ever known to humankind, Göbekli Tepe. When archaeologists began to dig in the 1990s, they didn't expect to find perfection carved from the Stone Age. What emerged were towering pillars arranged in circles, each weighing up to 16 tons, decorated with foxes, vultures, snakes, and wild boars. 12,000 years old, older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge. Yet it seemed built not by farmers, but by hunter-gatherers who by every theory should not have been capable of such complexity. It was as if civilization had appeared first and agriculture came later, a complete reversal of history. The stones spoke of ritual, of gathering, of meaning. Some believe this was humanity's first cathedral, a sacred place where people gathered not to survive, but to wonder. And when their time ended, they buried it deliberately, as if sealing a secret they weren't ready to share. Even today, no one knows who carved those pillars or why they chose to hide them. The silence of Göbekli Tepe hums softly, like a heartbeat buried beneath centuries of dust. Now travel north, to where the wind smells of salt and the sea hides a continent. Between England and the coasts of Denmark once stretched a vast land called Doggerland. 15,000 years ago, it was a bridge of grass and forest where mammoths roamed and humans built their homes. Families fished in rivers, hunted deer in the valleys, and watched sunsets over green plains that no longer exist. But as the Ice Age ended, the glaciers melted and the sea began its slow, patient work. Waves licked the edges of Doggerland year after year, until one morning the horizon was gone. The land slipped beneath the rising tide, and entire tribes vanished with it. Today, fishermen still pull up traces of that forgotten world. Antlers, tools, human bones turned to stone. In 2015, scientists mapped the seabed and found ancient riverbeds and valleys, proof that a once thriving world now sleeps beneath the North Sea. It's humbling to imagine that a place where children once played now lies beneath oil rigs and gray water. Some say the great flood myths from Noah to Gilgamesh might have begun here when Doggerland drowned. In the warm waters off India's western coast, divers descend into a silence broken only by the sound of their own breath. There, off the shores of Gujarat, lies a world long forgotten, Dwarka, the golden city of Lord Krishna. For centuries, it existed only in sacred texts, dismissed by historians as myth. But in 2001, sonar scans revealed something extraordinary. Stone walls, staircases, and grid-like streets stretching across the seabed, 5 miles off the coast. The ruins were older than anyone expected, perhaps as ancient as 9,000 years. Could it be that the stories were right all along? In Hindu legend, Krishna built Dwarka as a heavenly city on earth, adorned with gold towers and crystal palaces. But after his death, the sea claimed it, as if even the gods could not escape time. When divers explored the site, they found pottery shards, tools, and human remains buried in coral. The architecture was too precise, too deliberate to be nature's accident. Scientists still debate whether these structures are man-made or geological. But for many in India, there is no doubt. Dwarka is real, a sacred truth that slept beneath the waves until we were ready to see it. Atlantis, Göbekli Tepe, Doggerland, Dwarka, 4 names whispered by the earth itself. Each tells the same quiet truth, that nothing is ever truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. Beneath oceans and deserts lie the memories of civilizations that once believed they would last forever. But history is a patient sculptor. It buries what it must, so that new hands may one day uncover it again. As you drift into sleep, imagine those ancient cities glowing faintly in the dark, temples of stone breathing softly beneath the waves, waiting for dawns that will never come. The sea keeps its secrets well. In 1901, off the quiet coast of a Greek island called Antikythera, divers searching for ancient statues stumbled upon a shipwreck 2,000 years old. Among the treasures, bronze limbs, amphora, shattered marble, there was something small, green, and corroded. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a lump of rock. But when scientists cleaned it, they discovered gears, dozens of them, interlocking, precise, delicate as clockwork. It was a machine built centuries before machines were even supposed to exist, the Antikythera mechanism. Made around 100 BC, this ancient device could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the motion of planets, and calculate Olympic dates with mathematical perfection. 30 bronze gears turned together in harmony, driven by a hand crank, each tooth crafted to exact ratios known only to modern engineers. For decades, historians were baffled. How could a civilization from the ancient world build something so advanced that it wouldn't be replicated again until the 14th century? When X-ray scans were performed in 2005, the mystery deepened. The fragments revealed inscriptions, Greek words describing celestial cycles, eclipses, and planetary orbits. It was, in essence, an analog computer, a time machine of the stars. Some scholars believe it came from the school of Archimedes. Others think it was crafted by an unknown genius whose name time erased. Yet the question lingers: how did such knowledge vanish for over 1,000 years, only to reappear in the Renaissance? Was it destroyed in fire, or simply forgotten when the world grew darker. Each gear in the mechanism turns not just bronze, but memory, reminding us that humanity once looked up at the heavens not with wonder alone, but with understanding.
In a quiet library at Yale University lies a book that defies every law of understanding. Its pages are filled with drawings of unknown plants, celestial charts of impossible worlds, and naked women bathing in green pools shaped like stars. No one knows who wrote it, what language it uses, or even what it means. This is the Voynich Manuscript. 240 pages of coded mystery bound in leather, written sometime in the early 15th century. When it was rediscovered in 1912 by a rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich, scholars believed they had stumbled upon an alchemical text. Yet the language, if it is a language, exists nowhere else on Earth. Linguists, cryptographers, and even code breakers from World War II have tried to decipher it. None succeeded. The script flows like thought, fluid yet structured, as if written by someone who dreamed in another tongue. Some believe it's a medieval hoax. Others think it's the work of an alien mind or a forgotten civilization recording its final knowledge. In recent years, even artificial intelligence has been trained on the manuscript. Still, it cannot translate a single line. It's as if the book resists being understood, guarding its purpose in silence. And perhaps that's the point. Some mysteries were never meant to be solved. They exist to remind us of the limits of human knowing. As the night deepens, imagine that ancient book resting quietly under glass, its ink faded but alive, whispering to the few who dare to look too long. Thousands of miles away, in the desert sands near Baghdad, another object rests, simple, unassuming, yet equally confounding. A small clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod. At first, archaeologists thought it was just a storage vessel. But when a German scientist named Wilhelm Koenig examined it in 1938, he proposed something astonishing. This was an ancient battery, 2,000 years old. When filled with vinegar or lemon juice, the jar produced a weak electrical current, enough to plate metals or tingle the skin. How could people from the Parthian era have known about electricity centuries before its discovery? Was it used for electroplating jewelry, or perhaps for ritual healing? No one knows. Replicas have worked. Experiments confirm it can generate power. Yet no other evidence of electrical technology exists from that age. It stands alone, an orphan of time, a spark in the dark. The Baghdad battery blurs the line between myth and invention, reminding us that progress may not be a straight path. Perhaps civilizations rise and fall like waves, carrying knowledge that sometimes sinks, sometimes returns. In the hum of our modern machines, maybe echoes of that ancient spark still live on, waiting to remind us that even the past once held its own electricity.
In the year 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis unrolled a piece of gazelle skin and began to draw the world as he believed it was. His ink traced the coasts of Africa and South America with astonishing accuracy for his time. But what made the map truly haunting was what lay beyond the known world. A coastline of Antarctica as it would appear without ice. 3 centuries before humans even set foot there, his map showed mountain ranges and bays now buried under 2 miles of frozen silence. How could he have known? P.D. Rice claimed to have compiled his map from older sources, some tracing back to Alexander the Great, others, perhaps, to civilizations long forgotten. When modern cartographers studied the P.D. Rice map in the 1950s, they found it eerily accurate to modern aerial measurements, as if it were drawn from the sky. If true, it suggests that somewhere in human prehistory existed a culture that had sailed the globe and mapped its shores before recorded memory began. Perhaps the map was a whisper from that world, a fragment of a knowledge chain cut by time. Now it rests in a museum in Istanbul, its edges faded, its mystery still alive. High in the Andes Mountains of Peru stands another enigma, Sacsayhuaman. From a distance, its walls look as if they were poured from stone, smooth and seamless. But up close, you see each block is a mass of solid rock, some weighing more than 300 tons, cut and fitted together so perfectly that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. No mortar, no cement, just precision. Even today, engineers wonder how the Inca or their ancestors could achieve such accuracy without iron tools or wheels. Some believe the stones were softened using plants with chemical properties lost to time. Others suggest sound or vibration technologies we no longer understand. But stand there at sunset, and the mystery feels less like a puzzle and more like a message. Perhaps they weren't trying to defy nature, but to become part of it, to build in harmony with the mountain's heartbeat. When the light falls across the ancient stones, the walls seem to breathe, each block holding the memory of hands that worked with reverence, not force. Together, the P.D. Rice map and Sacsayhuaman remind us that history is not a straight line of progress, but a circle of remembering and forgetting. Knowledge rises, fades, and returns, like the tides and the stars. As you drift into sleep, imagine those lines drawn across skin and stone, connecting continents and centuries in one unbroken dream, the earth itself breathing through time.
Beneath the golden sands of Giza, where the horizon meets eternity, rises a monument that refuses to be fully understood. The Great Pyramid, built more than 4,500 years ago, still stands as the most perfect alignment of stone and starlight on Earth. It weighs nearly 6 million tons, made from 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing as much as an elephant.
yet no written record describes how it was built. No machines, no cranes, no iron tools, just precision so exact that even modern engineers hesitate to claim they could replicate it. Its base is almost perfectly square, with an error of less than 2 centimeters. Its sides point precisely to the cardinal directions, and its height, once 146.6 meters, encodes mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. When the stars of Orion's belt shone directly above its shafts, the Egyptians believed the pharaoh's soul would ascend to join the gods. Was it a tomb, a temple, or something else entirely? A device to bridge heaven and earth? Some theorists suggest the Great Pyramid was a machine, tuned to the frequencies of the planet, amplifying energy through chambers of granite and air. Others see it as a symbol of cosmic order, the Earth's silent heartbeat. Whatever it was, its perfection remains untouched by time. Even as empires crumbled around it, the pyramid kept its gaze steady on the stars, waiting for us to ask again how and perhaps why. Far across the sea in the rolling green plains of Wiltshire, England, another circle of stone rises, simpler in appearance, but equally mysterious. Stonehenge. Great pillars of sarsen rock, each weighing up to 25 tons, stand in solemn symmetry, their lintels balanced like the bones of giants. Some stones were dragged from quarries over 240 kilometers away, across rivers, hills, and swamps, without wheels. The builders, whoever they were, aligned the monument with the midsummer sunrise and the midwinter sunset so perfectly that the sun's first rays still pierce the center stone every solstice. For centuries, people have gathered there to watch that light return, a reminder that ancient hands once understood the rhythm of the cosmos more intimately than we do now. Was Stonehenge a calendar, a temple, or a place of healing? Some bones found nearby show signs of surgical precision, holes drilled in skulls to relieve pain or perhaps to release spirits. Others see it as a musical site, where wind and stone once sang together, resonating with frequencies lost to the modern ear. At night, when the fog rolls in and the stars shimmer through the mist, Stonehenge feels less like a ruin and more like an instrument still waiting to be played. Both it and the Great Pyramid whisper the same truth, that long before our machines and satellites, humanity already knew how to touch the sky, quietly, patiently, through stone. Across the vast Peruvian desert, where the wind whispers through emptiness and the sky stretches endlessly, lie drawings so large that only the heavens can see them. The Nazca lines, etched into the earth more than 2,000 years ago, are among the most puzzling creations humanity has ever left behind. From the ground, they appear as nothing more than shallow grooves carved into red sand, but from above, they transform into colossal figures: a hummingbird with outstretched wings, a monkey curling its tail,
a spider spinning across the plain, and hundreds of lines radiating toward the horizon like rays of invisible light. They cover nearly 80 square kilometers, yet their lines remain unbroken, undisturbed by centuries of wind. How could ancient hands, without flight or modern tools, draw with such perfection that their proportions remain accurate even from the sky? Some believe the Nazca built them as offerings to the gods of the air, hoping to summon rain to their barren land. Others think they were astronomical markers, maps of constellations laid across the desert floor, connecting heaven and earth. Still others whisper of rituals, where pilgrims walked along the lines in silent prayer, tracing paths meant to unite body and spirit. Whatever their purpose, the Nazca lines remind us that communication need not be spoken to be divine. Even now, satellites capture their geometry with awe, as if Earth itself once wrote a message to the cosmos, and the cosmos never replied. Thousands of miles across the Pacific, another island holds its silence differently. Easter Island, Rapa Nui. Here, the land rises in green hills, scattered with stone giants, the Moai. Each statue stands solemnly, faces carved with calm yet eternal eyes that seem to watch both the land and the sea. Some weigh 80 tons, others nearly 900. And yet they were carved, moved, and raised by a people without metal or beasts of burden. How? No one truly knows. Legends say the Moai walked into place, guided by chants and mana, spiritual power. Modern experiments suggest ropes and counterweights could have rocked them forward like giants in slow motion. But even if we understand the mechanics, the meaning remains elusive. Why carve so many? Why stop suddenly? Some scholars say the Moai represent ancestors, built to watch over villages. Others believe they were monuments of pride, each clan competing for greatness until the island's resources vanished. When trees fell, soil eroded, and hunger came, the statues toppled, face down, as if mourning the fall of their makers. Yet some still stand, stoic against the wind, shadows of a civilization that looked to the horizon and dreamed of eternity. As waves crash on the shore and stars drift over their silent faces, one feels that the Moai were not built for us to understand, but to remind us, to look up, to remember, and to wonder what part of ourselves we have also left standing, frozen in time.
In the heart of Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, where sunlight burns against ancient dust, lies a platform of stone so massive that it humbles every monument built after it. This is Baalbek, once the Roman city of Heliopolis, city of the sun. But beneath the Roman temples and columns stand blocks far older, far larger, cut and placed with a precision that mocks the tools of history. The largest of them, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, weighs over 1,200 tons. Each block fits against the next, as if molded by fire. Their corners smooth, their surfaces flawless. Even today, cranes struggle to lift a fraction of that weight, How did ancient builders move them? Across hills, over valleys, and into perfect alignment, without steel or engines. Some say thousands of men with ropes and logs could have rolled them, inch by inch. Others believe these stones are remnants of an older civilization, one that possessed knowledge long lost. The legends speak of giants, of divine architects, of gods who built with thunder in their hands. Yet when you stand before Baalbek, the air itself feels older than memory, and logic begins to soften. Perhaps the stones were never meant to be explained. Perhaps they were meant to remind us of what human ambition once dared to reach for: the impossible. High in the Bolivian Andes, near Lake Titicaca, another ruin whispers a similar story. Puma Punku, the door of the puma. Scattered across a plateau 4,000 meters above sea level, are stones cut with such precision that even a modern laser would struggle to trace their edges. They interlock like puzzle pieces, some shaped into perfect right angles, others carved with grooves and holes that suggest machine-like design. And yet these stones are made of andesite, a material harder than steel, worked by a people who left no record of metal tools. The cuts are so sharp, so deliberate, that they seem impossible for their time. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they asked the locals who had built it. The answer was simple: the gods did. Modern archaeology tells us it was the Tiwanaku civilization. But even that answer raises new questions. How could such precision exist in a culture that predated the Incas? Some believe Puma Punku was once a technological center, a place where sound, geometry, and energy converged. Others think it was a gateway, not in space, but in spirit, a symbolic door between worlds. As wind moves through the hollow stones and thin mountain air hums around you, it's easy to imagine that the stones themselves are still alive, vibrating with the frequency of time. From Baalbek to Puma Punku, the earth carries the fingerprints of mystery. Each stone, each joint, each impossible cut is a reminder that history is deeper than we remember. Maybe these builders were not just engineers, but poets of matter. People who spoke to the earth in a language of shape and sound. As the night deepens, picture those ancient hands resting for a moment, tools quiet, eyes lifted to the stars. What they built was not merely for the living, but for the eternal. And in their silence, we still hear it, the steady heartbeat of the impossible.
The desert does not give back what it takes. More than 2,000 years ago, in the time of King Cambyses II of Persia, an army of 50,000 soldiers marched into the sands of western Egypt. Their mission was simple: to destroy the Oracle of Amun, a temple whose prophecies dared to defy the Persian throne.
They marched out from Thebes under a burning sun, their armor gleaming like mirrors, their camels loaded with supplies. For 7 days they crossed dunes that shimmered like gold. Then came the storm. Ancient accounts say it began with a whisper, a wind that turned to a howl, a sky that darkened to bronze. For days, sand swept across the horizon, burying men and horses alike. When the storm ended, silence reigned. No messenger ever returned. No bodies were found. 50,000 souls simply vanished, erased as if by the hand of the desert itself. For centuries, explorers searched the western desert for their remains. Some claimed to find weapons turned to rust, fragments of armor half buried in dunes, but the army itself, gone. In 2009, Italian archaeologists announced they had discovered bronze arrowheads and jewelry scattered across a remote valley, perhaps a trace of that lost host. Yet even today, the desert keeps its secret. It is said that on nights when the wind shifts, the sands still whisper in chorus, the faint march of a forgotten army still crossing toward eternity. Half a world away, across the ocean and 4,000 years later, another disappearance would haunt history, the lost colony of Roanoke. In 1587, 115 settlers from England landed on Roanoke Island off the coast of present-day North Carolina. They built homes, planted crops, and carved out a fragile hope for life in the New World. Then their governor, John White, sailed back to England for supplies. War with Spain delayed his return for 3 long years. When he finally came back in 1590, the colony was gone. Houses stood empty, fences collapsed, no bodies, no signs of struggle. The only clue, a single word carved into a post, Croatoan. It was the name of a nearby island, home to an indigenous tribe. White searched, but a storm forced him to retreat before reaching it. He never saw his family again. The colonists had vanished without trace. Some believed they joined local tribes and were absorbed into their culture. Others suggested they were lost to famine, disease, or attack. But no graves, no documents, no survivors were ever found. Even today, DNA studies and archaeological digs turn up only questions. The story of Roanoke feels like a pause in history, a breath caught and never released. Perhaps as the wind moves through the Carolina pines, it still carries the name carved in wood, echoing softly through time. Croatoan. In the year 1845, 2 ships set sail from England under the command of Sir John Franklin. Their mission was heroic, to chart the last untraveled passage through the Arctic, linking the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The HMS Erebus and Terror carried 129 men, each with faith in discovery and the pride of empire. They vanished into the ice. For years, no word came. The ships were seen last near Baffin Bay, heading into the unknown, their decks laden with coal, canned food, and polished brass instruments. As the seasons turned, families waited. Letters went unanswered, and the North grew silent. Search parties were sent, but none found more than fragments, buttons, a silver spoon, a note frozen inside a tin cylinder. It said, "All well." The next message, found later, told the truth. Ships trapped by ice, men dying, Franklin dead. The survivors had abandoned the vessels, hoping to walk south across a frozen wasteland. None made it. For nearly 170 years, the story remained a ghost on the horizon. Then, in 2014, sonar scans discovered the Erebus, perfectly preserved beneath the Arctic waters, its timbers still intact. 2 years later, the Terror was found as well, her masts still upright, her windows unbroken. Inside, plates still rested on tables, shoes still by the bunks, like a moment caught in time, frozen mid-breath. Scientists found lead in the men's bones, proof of slow poisoning from canned food. Others found cut marks on bones, signs of desperation, of hunger turned to horror. Yet, in their failure, they succeeded in something greater. They drew the world's gaze toward the beauty and danger of the Arctic. Now, under northern lights, their ships sleep in the dark, silent museums of courage and tragedy. If the Franklin expedition was lost to ice, another treasure vanished into fire. During World War II, deep in Europe's chaos, the Amber Room of Russia disappeared, a chamber so radiant that visitors once described it as the eighth wonder of the world. Built in the 18th century, it was crafted from 6 tons of amber panels, gold leaf, and mirrors that glowed like captured sunlight. Its walls shimmered with honeyed light, every surface alive with warmth. When the Nazis invaded Russia in 1941, they dismantled it in 36 hours and shipped it to Königsberg, where it was displayed in a castle museum. Then, in 1945, as Allied forces advanced, it vanished. The castle was bombed, the room gone. No panels, no gold, no trace. Was it burned, hidden, sunk in the Baltic Sea? Rumors spread like wildfire, crates seen in tunnels, amber tiles found in private collections, witnesses silenced by time. Its estimated value today exceeds $500 million, but its worth cannot be measured in gold. The Amber Room was more than art. It was a soul made visible, a symbol of beauty that even war could not fully destroy. Some say it still exists, sealed behind a forgotten wall, waiting to glow again. Others believe it was reduced to ash. Yet, like the frozen ships of Franklin, its story remains suspended between hope and loss. In the stillness of night, both the ice and the fire whisper the same truth. Nothing beautiful ever truly disappears. It only changes form, hiding where time cannot reach.
So long before Rome, before Athens, before the pyramids rose in the sand, there was another world, a civilization so advanced that it seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. Along the banks of the Indus River, in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro flourished around 2600 BC. They had straight streets, two-story homes, public baths, and underground drainage systems that would not be seen again for thousands of years. There were no kings carved in stone, no temples towering above the people, only a quiet, balanced order that hinted at wisdom beyond conquest. Their seals show intricate animals, strange symbols, and a figure some believe to be a prototype of the god Shiva. But then, sometime around 1900 BC, the cities fell silent. The streets emptied, fires burned out, the people disappeared. No war, no invasion, no mass graves, just stillness. The entire civilization, one of the world's earliest, simply vanished. For centuries, scholars have tried to explain the mystery. Some blame shifting rivers, their lifelines turning to dust. Others point to climate change, drought, or floods that forced people to leave their homes. Still others wonder if disease or trade collapse broke their unity. Whatever happened, it was not destruction. It was departure. The Indus people seemed to fade rather than fall, dissolving into the pages of history without leaving a cry of pain. Even their language remains undeciphered. The seals of Harappa, covered in tiny, precise symbols, speak in silence. No one today can read a single word. Perhaps they didn't need words at all. Perhaps their communication, like their disappearance, was meant to transcend understanding. When archaeologists walk through the ruins at sunset, they say the city feels strangely alive. The wells still hold water. The streets still follow perfect geometry.
It is as if the people stepped out only moments ago, leaving their homes unlocked, their lamps unlit, their doorways open to the wind. You can almost hear their footsteps echoing through time, a soft rhythm that never ended, only grew quieter. From the vanished army of Persia to the silent colony of Roanoke, from the frozen ships of Franklin to the lost cities of the Indus, history leaves us with one haunting thought. Disappearance is not always tragedy. Sometimes it is transformation. Things do not always end. They change shape, waiting to be found in another form, another age. As you drift toward sleep, imagine those who walked before us, soldiers, sailors, dreamers, and builders, each carrying their world into the unknown. They are not gone. They have simply moved beyond the horizon of memory, where silence keeps their stories safe.
Long before alphabets took their modern form, before the Greeks or Romans carved letters into marble, there existed a script that whispered on clay. Linear A. It was the language of the Minoans, the mysterious seafaring civilization that flourished on the island of Crete more than 3,500 years ago. They built palaces with flowing corridors, painted walls with dolphins and lilies, and worshipped gods who danced among mountains. Yet their words, those delicate strokes pressed into clay tablets, remain unreadable to this day. Linear A was discovered in the early 20th century, alongside another script, Linear B. The latter was later decoded and revealed to be an early form of Greek. But Linear A, it defies understanding. It shares symbols, yes, but its grammar, its rhythm, its soul are utterly different. Scholars have compared it to Sumerian, to Luwian, to Anatolian tongues. They've used computers, probability, even artificial intelligence. Still, the tablets remain silent. Perhaps it was a language isolate, born and buried within one culture, never meant to travel beyond its shores. When you see a tablet of Linear A, smooth clay marked by elegant lines curving like the sea, you feel as if someone left a letter to time, trusting that someday someone would read it. But the message remains unopened, its words sleeping beneath centuries of dust. The Minoans, the great traders of the Bronze Age, spoke to gods and to the sea. Now, only the waves seem to answer them. Across the world, on a small island lost in the Pacific, another script sings a similar silence. It is called Rongorongo, the written language of Easter Island, Rapa Nui. Carved into slender wooden tablets, each symbol flows into the next like an unbroken chant. There are men, birds, fish, crescent moons, eyes, spirals,
all arranged in lines that must be read in a pattern unlike any other, from left to right, then turning the tablet upside down to continue in reverse. Only 26 of these tablets survive today, scattered in museums around the world, most of them scorched, cracked, or half erased by time. When missionaries arrived in the 19th century, they forbade its use, calling it pagan. Within a generation, no one remembered how to read it. The language of a people was silenced, not by fire, but by forgetting. Some believe Rongorongo recorded genealogy, songs, or rituals. Others think it marked astronomical cycles or sacred histories. And yet, as with Linear A, the truth sleeps beneath its surface. The last man said to understand it died over 100 years ago, taking the key with him. Today, scholars trace patterns, searching for logic in the lines, but the symbols remain elusive, as if the island itself is guarding its own memory. When the ocean wind passes through the palm trees of Rapa Nui, you can almost imagine the old priests chanting the symbols aloud, their voices rising with the rhythm of the waves. The language may be lost, but its song still lingers, an echo written not for the eye, but for the soul.
4,000 years ago, in the Indus Valley, merchants pressed soft clay with tiny seals before sending their goods downriver. Each seal bore strange symbols: fish, arrows, crescents, lines, animals drawn with perfect symmetry. These marks formed what we now call the Indus script, one of the oldest writing systems in the world, and one of the few that has never been read. More than 4,000 inscribed artifacts have been found across Pakistan and India, on pottery, ivory, bronze, even jewelry, but no one knows what they say. Each message contains only a handful of signs, short as whispers, yet so precise that they feel intentional, sacred even. Archaeologists have compared them to prayers, to trade codes, to names of gods or kings. Some say they are not writing at all, but an art form, a visual language born from ritual rather than speech. Others believe they represent a lost tongue, spoken by millions, now silenced completely. The mystery deepens with every discovery. Without a bilingual key, like the Rosetta Stone that unlocked Egyptian hieroglyphics, the Indus script remains sealed. Its letters are beautiful, but unyielding, curves like river bends, dots like stars, lines like paths through time. When you hold a seal in your hand, you feel a presence, not just of a merchant marking ownership, but of a civilization trying to speak across eternity. Somewhere, their words are still waiting, buried in clay, dreaming of being heard again. Centuries and continents away, another message was left behind, on an island where myths and mountains meet. Crete. The Phaistos disk, discovered in 1908, lies today in the Heraklion Museum,
glowing under glass like a captured sun. It is made of baked clay, about 15 centimeters wide, stamped on both sides with spiraling symbols pressed into the surface while still wet. 90 different characters march along a perfect spiral from edge to center. Men in headdresses, birds, arrows, plumed helmets, ships, flowers, tools. The symbols were not carved, but printed, as if the creator had invented movable type 2 millennia before Gutenberg. But the meaning? Unknown. Some think it's a hymn, a poem, or a prayer. Others a board game, a calendar, or a message from beyond Crete itself. One theory even suggests it is a forgery, too perfect, too unique, standing alone without a single twin in all of archaeology. Yet the clay holds fingerprints, real, ancient, human. Someone pressed those symbols with care, watching the spiral tighten, as if winding thought itself into matter. The disk feels personal, intimate, a whisper trapped in a circle, meant to be read aloud, perhaps to the gods. Scholars have counted frequencies, measured syntax, mapped patterns with algorithms, but the disk keeps its heart closed. Like the Indus script, it speaks a language beyond translation, the language of mystery itself. Both artifacts remind us that communication is not only about understanding, but about wonder. Sometimes the beauty of not knowing is its own kind of knowledge. High in the Andes, where clouds brush the mountain peaks and the air tastes of ancient stone, the Inca Empire built a civilization that stretched across half of South America without writing a single word on paper or stone. Yet they recorded everything. Their tool was called the quipu, a system of cords and knots so intricate that it could hold the memory of an empire. From a single main cord hung dozens of others, dyed in shades of gold, crimson, and indigo. Each string carried knots tied in specific positions, directions, and intervals. To the untrained eye, it looked like decoration. To an Inca record keeper, it was language, a river of meaning woven through fiber. The quipu tracked taxes, crops, military rosters, even stories. Spanish chroniclers wrote that the quipu Camayok, the knot masters, could recite entire histories just by running their fingers along the cords. But when the empire fell, the language of knots unraveled. Missionaries destroyed thousands of quipu, calling them tools of idolatry. Only a few hundred survive today, tangled relics of lost sentences. For centuries, scholars saw them as mere accounting devices. But modern research has revealed something deeper. Some quipu may encode not just numbers, but syllables, symbols, and narrative patterns. When analyzed under light and algorithm, subtle rhythms appear, color sequences repeating like grammar, knots varying like pronunciation. It may have been a tactile script, one meant not to be seen, but to be felt. Communication for the hands, not the eyes. Imagine the Inca storytellers in twilight, fingers moving across the strings, their voices rising and falling as they translated touch into speech. Their books were not pages, but threads connecting memory and world. The quipu reminds us that language is not limited to ink or sound. It is whatever carries meaning across time. The Minoans pressed their prayers into clay. The people of Rapa Nui carved songs into wood. The Indus traders sealed their faith into stone, and the Inca tied their knowledge into knots. Every civilization has tried to speak to the future. Some succeeded, some faded into silence. Yet perhaps silence itself is a form of communication, the pause between two notes that gives music its soul. These unreadable scripts, these undeciphered systems, are not failures of understanding. They are invitations to listen differently. As you drift towards sleep, imagine all these forgotten hands, pressing, carving, stamping, tying, each one leaving a trace for us to follow. Their languages may be lost, but their intention remains, to be remembered. And perhaps that is the oldest message of all, that to exist, to create, to reach beyond our moment, is itself the universal script of humanity. The earth keeps their words. The stars still echo them. The mystery is not that we cannot read them. It is that they still speak.
Sometimes nature speaks in a language science still cannot translate. The earth breathes, the sky burns, and for a moment we realize how small we are inside its story. Tonight, we travel to the remote forests of Siberia, to a morning when the sky itself came undone. It was June 30th, 1908. Dawn had barely touched the endless taiga when hunters and nomads near the Tunguska River saw a fire bloom in the sky. Witnesses described it as a second sun, blinding, roaring, alive. Then came the shockwave, a thunder that rolled across the heavens, followed by a wind so fierce it flattened over 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers. Herds of reindeer were thrown into the air, rivers turned white with foam, and people hundreds of miles away were knocked off their feet. The explosion was said to be 1,000 times stronger than Hiroshima, but when scientists arrived years later, they found no crater, no meteorite, no fragment of rock, nothing. Only trees lying outward in perfect symmetry, as if a giant hand had pressed down from above and then vanished. For over a century, the Tunguska event has haunted both science and imagination. Theories have multiplied like stars. A comet that exploded mid-air, an asteroid that vaporized before impact, even antimatter colliding with Earth's atmosphere. Some spoke of a UFO, others of a natural hydrogen bomb. Each explanation solves one piece, but leaves another in shadow. When Soviet expeditions ventured into the region in the 1920s and 30s, they discovered melted minerals fused to the soil, signs of extreme heat, but no trace of the object itself. Modern satellite data and atmospheric models suggest the culprit was likely a space rock, entering at a shallow angle, igniting before it touched ground. Yet even now, scientists admit the puzzle isn't complete. What makes Tunguska so haunting is not just the power of the blast, but the silence it left behind. No city, no monument, no witness remained, only trees bending outward from an invisible center. For miles, the forest still grows unevenly, as if scarred by memory. The local Evenki people call it the Valley of Fire. They speak of spirits that fell from the heavens, punishing the arrogance of man. Perhaps that's how nature teaches us, through awe, not anger. The Tunguska event is more than a mystery, it's a mirror reminding us that even the calmest morning can hold the universe's wildest secret. Somewhere in that silence, beneath the whispering pines, the earth still remembers the day the sky fell.
In the frozen valleys of Norway, there is a place where the night refuses to stay dark. It is called Hessdalen, a small, quiet valley surrounded by pine forests and cold rivers. For more than 70 years, people there have looked up and seen lights that defy reason, floating, pulsing, glowing with a life of their own. Sometimes they shimmer white and blue, drifting slowly like lanterns over the snow. Other times they flash red and gold, darting across the horizon faster than any aircraft. Locals call them the lights that think because they seem aware, appearing when watched, vanishing when chased. In the 1980s, scientists built an observatory to monitor the phenomenon 24 hours a day. Cameras recorded orbs hovering, splitting into two, merging again. Radar detected them, yet no aircraft appeared. Magnetic sensors spiked, but no radiation followed. It was as if the valley itself were dreaming, and light had learned to dance. Theories range from plasma caused by mineral dust colliding in the air to natural electrical discharges from quartz in the ground, even to micro black holes or intelligent plasma life forms. But every explanation ends in silence. The lights return every winter, sometimes brighter, sometimes faint, and still no one knows why. On some nights, tourists gather in the snow, waiting in hushed awe. When the light finally blooms, it's said you can feel the air hum, as if the valley were breathing through color. Half a world away, deep in the American desert, something equally impossible moves. Stones that travel without hands. In Death Valley, California, giant rocks, some weighing over 300 kilograms, glide slowly across a dry lake bed called Racetrack Playa. They leave behind long, winding trails, sometimes straight as arrows, sometimes looping like serpents, stretching over 200 meters. For decades, no one saw them move, only the marks they left behind. Some thought it was wind, others whispered of ghosts, even pranks by bored wanderers. But the mystery persisted. How could heavy stones shift across solid ground year after year? It wasn't until 2014 that a rare combination of luck and science caught the stones in motion. After a cold winter night, a thin layer of ice formed on the lake's surface. When morning sun melted it, the ice broke into large floating sheets. A gentle breeze, barely 90 kilometers per hour, pushed these sheets against the rocks, slowly nudging them forward. Each moved only a few centimeters per second, yet over hours they drifted gracefully across the playa, carving trails through the soft mud. Cameras finally captured the dance of the sailing stones. And still, even after the mystery was solved, it didn't lose its wonder. Because in that moment, the earth had performed something elegant, a symphony of wind, ice, water, and time, so precise that it happens only once in many years. Perhaps that is what all mysteries of nature remind us, that the world does not always need to be explained to be understood. The lights of Hessdalen and the stones of Death Valley are not secrets to decode, but poems written by the planet itself, silent verses that move, shine, and whisper, "I am alive."
In the quiet town of Taos, New Mexico, nights are never truly silent. Beneath the rustle of sagebrush and the soft wind over adobe rooftops, some people hear a low, endless hum, a sound that seems to rise from the very bones of the earth. It's not loud, but it's constant, a deep, vibrating tone like the drone of a faraway engine or the heartbeat of a sleeping world. Only about 2% of the population can hear it. For those who do, it becomes impossible to forget. They describe it as something that follows them indoors, into dreams, through every hour of the night. Some say it brings headaches, nausea, sleeplessness. Others say it feels alive. In the early 1990s, scientists came to Taos armed with microphones and spectrum analyzers, hoping to capture the sound. They found nothing. No vibrations in the ground, no unusual frequencies in the air. The hum seemed to exist only in perception, yet too many people shared it for it to be a coincidence. Similar reports have appeared across the world: Bristol in England, Kokomo in Indiana, Auckland in New Zealand. The global hum. Some theorize it's the low-frequency resonance of ocean waves. Others point to industrial machinery, radio signals, or even the shape of the inner ear. But none of these explanations fit every case. Perhaps the hum is not something the ear hears, but something the mind recognizes, an echo of the planet's pulse, caught by the rare few who are attuned to it. To them, silence is never silent again.
If Taos hums in the dark, then the sky itself sometimes sings in fire. Ball lightning, a sphere of glowing plasma that drifts like a living ember, is one of the strangest natural phenomena ever recorded. Witnesses describe it as a floating orb the size of a grapefruit, glowing white, blue, or orange, moving with eerie calm. It can pass through glass, roll along floors, or hover beside a person before vanishing in a flash. The first scientific report dates back to the 17th century, but stories stretch much further. Farmers, sailors, even pilots have seen them. Some last for seconds, others for minutes. They hiss, spin, shimmer, then dissolve like ghosts. Scientists have tried to recreate ball lightning in laboratories for decades. Some succeeded briefly, with microwaves, silicon vapor, or electrical discharges, but none captured its true behavior. Even today, no one fully understands how it forms. Some say it's plasma trapped in electromagnetic fields. Others believe it's a chemical fireball fed by vaporized particles. The most haunting detail? Ball lightning sometimes appears indoors, floating through walls, gliding silently over sleeping faces, leaving behind the faint scent of ozone. Those who've seen it describe both terror and wonder, as if watching a thought take form. The Taos hum and ball lightning share something beyond science. They remind us that nature is not mechanical. It's alive, aware, and sometimes playful. The world is not a closed book. It still writes itself in light and sound, in whispers and sparks that no equation can hold. Maybe that's why such mysteries endure. They let us feel the poetry beneath the physics. As the night deepens, imagine it. The low hum in the Earth's chest, the wandering light gliding across the dark horizon. They are the heartbeat and breath of a living planet, reminding us that even in silence, the Earth is still singing. The ocean hides more secrets than the night sky. Its surface glimmers like memory, but beneath, an entire world moves in silence. Scientists say that 95% of the ocean floor remains unexplored, untouched, unseen. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the depths of our own planet. Somewhere down there, in that blue infinity, history sleeps. In 1968, near the Bahamian island of Bimini, a diver named J. Manson Valentine made a discovery that would blur the line between myth and geology. Just 18 feet below the surface, he found a long, straight formation of massive stone blocks stretching nearly 800 meters across the seabed. Each slab measured about 4 meters wide, flat, smooth, and aligned with uncanny precision. It looked less like nature and more like intention. They called it the Bimini Road. News spread quickly. To believers, this was not coincidence, it was prophecy fulfilled. Decades earlier, the American mystic Edgar Cayce had predicted that in 1968, or 1969, ruins of Atlantis would rise near Bimini. And here it was, right on schedule, an underwater road leading into the depths. Photographs showed rectangular stones arranged in a neat, almost architectural pattern. Some divers claimed to see steps, walls, even the base of pillars. Scientists, cautious as ever, suggested a simpler explanation: a natural formation known as beach rock, where layers of limestone fracture and settle into geometric shapes over time. But if it was natural, it was an unusually persuasive illusion. The stones rested on one another like bricks, some stacked in double rows, others curved gently as if following a shoreline that once touched the air. Marine archaeologists found fish bones, pottery fragments, and coral-covered artifacts nearby, none conclusive but all suggestive. And the deeper you dive, the more the mind begins to question. What if both are true? What if time itself sculpted what humans once began? When you swim above Bimini Road, the sunlight filters through the water like liquid glass. Shadows of fish glide across the stones, the ocean's current whispering between them like a forgotten breath. Whether it's a harbor, a wall, or a trick of geology, the effect is the same. You feel watched, as if the sea remembers. Every line of stone becomes a question, every ripple a voice. Maybe Atlantis never sunk. Maybe it was absorbed, its story folded into the sea's eternal dream. And so the diver surfaces, heart still racing, unsure what he has found. A city, a mirage, or simply a reminder that the earth is ancient, patient, and more mysterious than any legend we've told.
Far beneath the blue waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a staircase carved from time itself. Discovered in 1986 by a diver named Kiichiro Aratake, the structure stunned the world. A massive complex of stone terraces, pillars, and steps descending 50 feet into the sea. The shapes were too deliberate: rectangles, platforms, even what looked like an altar and a human face. Locals began to call it the Yonaguni Monument, the Atlantis of Asia. For years, divers and scientists have argued over its origin. Some insist it's natural, sandstone fractured by earthquakes and waves. Others, like Professor Masaaki Kimura, who studied it for over 2 decades, believe it is the remains of an ancient city submerged more than 10,000 years ago, older than the pyramids of Egypt. His surveys found roads, terraces, and what appeared to be staircases leading to chambers aligned with the cardinal directions. Coral encrusts every corner now, softening the edges, but the geometry remains. Too sharp, too precise, too human. When you descend into Yonaguni, the water turns cold and clear, and the silence feels ancient. Fish weave through corridors that might once have been streets. Rays of sunlight slice through the depths, brushing over the massive steps that lead nowhere. Some divers say it feels like walking through a dream half-remembered. Was it a city, a temple, or simply nature playing architect again? No one agrees.
Yet everyone who dives there surfaces with the same feeling that they've seen something meant to be forgotten, now returning through the sea's slow memory. Half a world away, in the cold black waters of the Baltic Sea, another riddle sleeps. In 2011, a team of Swedish treasure hunters scanning the seabed stumbled upon a round formation 60 meters across. On sonar, it looked eerily familiar, a perfect disk with corridors and stair-like ridges rising from the ocean floor. Its shape reminded some of the Millennium Falcon, others of an ancient fortress. When divers approached, their electronic equipment began to fail. Cameras froze, lights flickered, compasses spun aimlessly. Even their phones went dead within a 200-meter radius. They called it the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Samples from the site contained metals and minerals unlike the surrounding geology. Traces of manganese, titanium, and materials rarely found together. Some suggested a meteorite. Others whispered of a crashed craft, something not of this world. Official studies concluded it was glacial rock sculpted by ice over millennia. But the questions refused to sink. Why the perfect symmetry? Why the electromagnetic interference? Why the stairways and archways that seemed designed? Even the sonar image showed what looked like a ramp leading into the structure, as if once, long ago, something landed, not fell. Both Yonaguni and the Baltic site reveal the same truth. The line between human creation and nature's art is thinner than we think. The sea, in its infinite patience, can carve temples or swallow them whole. Every current is an artist, every tide a sculptor. What we call ruins might be the ocean dreaming of form. What we call geology might be time remembering its own design. And as you float there, suspended between water and wonder, you realize the sea doesn't hide secrets, it keeps them. It waits for us to remember.
Somewhere between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico lies a triangle of sea where compasses lose their will and history forgets to explain itself. They call it the Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of 1.5 million square kilometers where ships vanish, planes disappear, and time seems to hesitate. Sailors once spoke of skies turning green, of water that boiled without heat. Over 50 vessels and 20 aircraft have been claimed by this place, each story ending the same way: silence. The most famous of all was Flight 19. A squadron of 5 U.S. Navy bombers that took off from Florida in December 1945 and never returned. Their last radio transmission was confused, almost dreamlike. Everything looks wrong. The ocean doesn't look right. A rescue plane sent to find them also vanished without a trace. The official report called it cause unknown. Since then, the triangle has become the sea's most whispered mystery. Scientists have tried to map logic onto its chaos. Some point to methane gas rising from the seafloor,
bubbles that could sink ships by lowering water density. Others suggest magnetic anomalies, pulling compasses off true north, disorienting pilots. There are even those who talk of rogue waves, 30 meters high, born from colliding currents that crush metal like paper. Yet, statistically, the Bermuda Triangle has no more disappearances than any other heavily traveled part of the ocean. But myths don't need math to survive. They just need awe. And perhaps that's the point. The Bermuda Triangle endures because it reminds us that even now, in an age of satellites and sonar, the sea keeps her secrets. It is not a place of evil, but of memory, a living labyrinth where human certainty dissolves. Every story lost there becomes part of the ocean's voice. That voice spoke again in 1997. Deep beneath the South Pacific, hydrophones operated by NOAA recorded something extraordinary, a sound so loud it was heard over 5,000 kilometers away. They called it the Bloop. It was a low-frequency, organic-sounding noise, unlike anything ever captured before. Its pattern suggested a living origin, similar to a whale call, but many times louder. Louder, in fact, than any known creature could make. For years, scientists puzzled over it. Was it an enormous sea creature, still hidden in the uncharted depths? The last survivor of some prehistoric age? Or was it the sound of icebergs fracturing under pressure, amplified by the cold, dense water? In 2005, researchers leaned toward the latter, glacial movement from Antarctica. But even now, not everyone is convinced. Some argue that the Bloop carried rhythm, a pulse, even intention, like the heartbeat of something colossal, sleeping just beyond the edge of human reach. If the Bermuda Triangle is where the sea forgets, then the Bloop is where it remembers. One swallows, one speaks. Together they are reminders of the same truth, that we live on a planet still wild, still alive, still echoing with voices older than language. And when you lie in bed tonight, listening to the faint hum of the world, imagine that sound traveling through water, miles deep, slow, eternal. Perhaps the ocean isn't silent at all. Perhaps it's still telling its story to those who know how to listen.
After a long journey through the ruins of time and the whispers of history, one truth begins to rise like dawn over the horizon. The more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. Every discovery opens 1,000 doors, each one leading deeper into mystery. Perhaps that is the secret beauty of knowledge. It never ends, it only deepens. We've wandered through lost cities, touched the echoes of forgotten gods, and listened to the sea's quiet memories. We've seen civilizations build monuments that defy logic,
and artifacts that challenge our modern sense of progress. From the golden sands of Egypt to the icy silence of the Baltic, from the humming deserts of Death Valley to the glowing skies of Norway, humanity's story unfolds not as a straight line, but as a spiral, circling, returning, ascending. What makes these enigmas so compelling is not the hope of solving them, but the invitation they give us to wonder, to imagine, to feel small again, yet connected, to the same sky our ancestors once mapped, to the same constellations that guided their ships and dreams. When Plato described Atlantis, he wasn't just describing a city, he was asking a question. What if human greatness is not lost, but waiting to be remembered? Each mystery we explored was a mirror. The Antikythera mechanism reminded us that intelligence is not new. The pyramids taught us that precision is timeless. The Voynich manuscript showed that language can still hold secrets beyond machines. And the Bermuda Triangle whispered that even in an age of satellites, the Earth still holds places beyond our reach. Maybe these mysteries are not errors in history, but messages, fragments of a conversation between the past and the present. When we listen carefully, they do not speak of aliens or gods, but of us, our endless need to create, to question, to leave something behind that endures. So, as the night deepens, imagine yourself standing beneath the stars, somewhere between what we know and what we don't. The wind carries the voices of ages, the earth hums beneath your feet, and in that silence you might hear it too, the quiet realization that knowledge is not a wall we climb, but an ocean we float upon. We don't conquer mystery, we dwell within it.
When we trace all these mysteries together, a pattern begins to form, like threads woven through centuries, connecting minds that never met, civilizations that never spoke. Across continents, from the stones of Giza to the skies of Stonehenge, from the gears of Antikythera to the silent walls of Baalbek, one truth whispers through time. The ancients knew more than we remember. The pyramids align not only with the cardinal points, but with the stars themselves. Orion's belt mirrors their placement almost perfectly. Each block, weighing over 2 tons, was fitted so precisely that even a razor blade cannot slip between them. Modern engineers still struggle to replicate their precision. And Stonehenge, far to the north, captures the summer solstice with its stones like frozen music. The sun rises through a single archway, marking the longest day of the year with mathematical perfection. These were not coincidences. They were celestial calendars carved in rock and faith. Then there's the Antikythera mechanism, a bronze box lost beneath the Aegean for 2,000 years, built with gears so intricate it could predict eclipses decades in advance. Historians once called it an anomaly, a machine out of time. But what if it wasn't? What if it was proof that human genius
has risen and fallen many times before. The megaliths of Baalbek and Pumapunku tell the same silent story. Stones the size of houses, cut with precision down to fractions of a millimeter, joined without mortar, surviving earthquakes and empires alike. They defy not just physics, but arrogance. We once believed that progress was linear, that we are the peak of intelligence. But maybe we are the echo, not the crescendo. What makes these feats even more astonishing is the way they share an invisible language: geometry, astronomy, proportion. Cultures separated by oceans built temples aligned to solstices, monuments tuned to the cycles of the moon. Without satellites or computers, they read the heavens like a book. Perhaps they didn't just look at the stars, they understood themselves as part of them. And now, technology like LiDAR, scanning dense jungles with light, has revealed entire lost cities beneath the canopy of Central America. The Maya, once thought scattered tribes, are now known to have built vast, interconnected urban networks, complete with roads, reservoirs, and complex trade systems, all hidden under centuries of forest. It's as if the earth itself covered their brilliance, keeping it safe until we were humble enough to rediscover it. Every new discovery adds another piece to the silent mosaic of human genius. It doesn't prove aliens or miracles. It proves something far more beautiful: that intelligence is ancient, creativity eternal, and curiosity immortal. When we gaze upon those ruins today, we are not looking at a past that has vanished, but at a reflection of what we might become again, if we remember that knowledge was never meant to conquer the world, but to understand it.
Perhaps the greatest gift of all these enigmas is not what they tell us, but what they keep from us. The unknown is not an obstacle. It is an invitation, a reminder that the story of the world is still being written, and that we are part of the ink. Every mystery we encounter, whether a buried city, an undeciphered script, or a sound from the deep, expands the boundaries of our imagination. It humbles us. It slows us down. It reminds us that intelligence is not ownership of knowledge, but curiosity sustained through time. Maybe that's why the ancients built their monuments to align with the stars, not to prove power, but to stay connected to the infinite, to the questions that make life luminous. When we look back at the past, we often search for answers, but maybe the ancients were searching too. Maybe they built the pyramids and stone circles, not because they had all the answers, but because they too wanted to ask the sky, "Who are we? Why are we here?" Their stones were their prayers, carved not to be read, but to be felt. And as our own age reaches further into the cosmos, with telescopes, quantum computers, and artificial intelligence, we are becoming again what we always were, explorers of mystery. Technology does not end wonder, it restores it. Every new discovery, every strange anomaly, every unanswered question pulls us forward into a deeper sense of belonging. Because mystery is not the absence of understanding, it is the presence of infinity. So tonight, as you close your eyes, remember, the same stars that guided the first dreamers still watch over us. The same ocean that swallowed empires still whispers to the shore. The same questions that haunted Plato, Hypatia, and Galileo still hum beneath our thoughts. We are all travelers through time, curious, uncertain, but awake. And maybe that is the truest form of wisdom, not to know everything, but to be at peace with not knowing. For as long as there are questions, there will be wonder. And as long as there is wonder, there will be life. Sleep gently now. The world still keeps its secrets, but tonight, you are part of them.